It's got everything we work with on the computer
Okay.
systems and everything. Yeah, it's called, Moments of Clarity, production and, media. So great, it's up. With the route.
Super, man. We had some fun with that.
Oh, I'm gonna wear my yarmulke, I'm gonna wear my,
That keeps you ready for sure. Or you
some of both. Keep a lot of assholes.
All right, I'm public recording now, so we're gonna bring the meeting to order. Let's see, let's move to adopt the agenda.
Make a motion to adopt the agenda.
So move, or second,
Motion in a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Right, carries. We got a bunch of public comments, so we're gonna move on to public comments. I'm just gonna do them in the order that I got them stacked here. I've got 4 or 5, so everybody just kind of keep an eye on your 3 minutes. So else you want me to kick off with you?
No, sir, if I could,
You waiting for another item to
Yes,
come
sir.
up?
Yes,
Okay. Mr. Atkinson?
Can I reserve till presentation?
Sure.
Right?
Yeah. And Mr. Loker, you have anything to kick off with?
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
Good to see you tonight. I made a special trip to be here tonight. I see many people did at this important organization. It's now sitting on about $20 million in the bank. And has ostensibly been out of the medical business for the last 3 years. That's how long about the hospital's been closed, I believe. A couple of things about the agenda. SB 50 is what it was called years ago. Mr. Kennedy has brought this up at the city meetings. Allows the board, requires the public to be allowed to comment on any proposition before the board. That's what some people here wanted to do tonight. Comment on a proposition before the board. The proposition is not a thought. It's not an idea. It's not a feeling. The proposition is if I wanted to take the chief judge, or like she's here today at the lunch, that would be a proposition. The husband would be required to vote on it. He was the only vote, then people would be speak about it. Because that's what a proposition is. So these agendas that you've been doing lately, that final action may be taken. It's just ridiculous when nobody knows what the action may be. And we discussed this afternoon, but I thought I would just bring it up again. Dale's been doing this a long time. And the fact that these actions have to be brought up in some public bodies was changed in the county charter years ago. That anything comes before the board, the public has to know 7 days before the meeting. This was in the Florida statutes, section 189 for special districts. Everybody knew about it. And then they took it off, and not everybody knew about it. And I was one of the people that didn't know it got taken off. And it turned out the legislator that moved that through the Florida legislature to take that off, he didn't know about it either. Only a few members of the staff knew about it. And they made some kind of cockamamie excuse that, well, it wouldn't be ADA compatible, so it would be an expense. I'm respectfully asking this board now that the stuff, and Dale is pretty good at this, your manager, keep this stuff 7 days before and follow the rule that all the stuff has to be there 7 days before. I looked at Ms. Mayo's, Dr. Mayo's stuff. Looked pretty good PowerPoint to me. Columbia County now does business by PowerPoint at the county and other places. That's not the way you really should be doing business. But I didn't see any backup material. I'm not exactly sure what she wants. And I hope she makes a good presentation. I probably won't be here for it. But there's stuff missing. That's not her fault. That's the fault of the manager and this board for not requiring the correct amount of information that the board can make a decision and the public can make a decision. My final thing is this. This board is not in the real estate business. Recently, you leased for a nominal amount the record storage building to Columbia County. You know, was it $100 a year or $100? It was cheap. It was just a formality. Yet at the same time, court administration is here to get a building. And you're talking about a lease that's worth tens of thousands of dollars. And I understand that. You have something against court administration? I think so. Maybe you do. But if the county can rent a building for a minimal amount to do county business, I think this board has to ask themselves why court administration is being charged a phenomenal amount of money for the same kind of deal. First of all, you guys shouldn't be shouldn't be renting buildings to anybody that's not in the medical business, because that's not an arbitrary thing that's brought up in Florida statutes that this is required to do. So I'm asking to you look into that before you sign a lease with anybody and somebody get pestered and sues you guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Wagner. Ms. Lemley,
I'll hold mine until the item comes up, please.
Mr. Tompkins,
I said I'd like to hold mine until
okay.
your last.
Oh, I just read that. All right. Okay, we've exhausted public comments, right off of the new public comments onto the new business. First item we've got up is a presentation from Miss Erica Mayo. Miss Mayo. Thank you for coming.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, while
Yes,
Ms.
sir.
Mayo's coming up, come on up, Erica. Just to give some background to the trustees,
Yes, sir.
I think all of you know Erica, have met Erica, and you have heard Erica's proposal before. I just wish to reiterate that what was intriguing about Erica's proposal to me was the number of boxes that it checked as it related to the authority's mission statement, as it related to the Florida Wellness Council's assessment of needs in the community. Her proposal, in my opinion, furthered every one of those goals and objectives. So for that reason, we earlier got to hear individually from Erica, and this proposal to me has a great deal of merit. Now, having said that, on top of what I've just said, Erica wants to be on our campus. She wants to be here in this location, in that building. And of course, that's not always been the case with some of the vendors that we've tried to offer facilities to and et cetera. Todd and I have met with Erica. What we are seeking tonight, after you hear from Erica and you ask Erica questions, what we would like to do is to receive authority from you to proceed with trying to draft a contract and agreement with Erica for those services. That's our goal and objective. That's what we discussed previously, and that was the reason we put it on the special agenda, just to make sure everybody's clear. So, having said that, Erica, I'll shut up.
No, you're good. Thanks, Mr. Williams. So as everyone knows, I'm Erica Mayo, Dr. Erica Mayo. I'm a pharmacist. I am a consultant pharmacist. I'm a certified test-and-treat pharmacist, and I am certified to go into collaboration with physicians. With all of those different certifications, I am proposing to bring pharmaceutical care on the campus of Lake Shore so that we can provide needed indigent services for the individuals in the community and also wellness as well. So the Wellness Center would incorporate education, which is very important. You give individuals medications, but they're not educated on how to prevent different diseases and prolong their disease state. So the Wellness Center will encompass education courses for diabetes, cholesterol, high blood pressure, and nutrition as well. And then I'm also looking into doing the tobacco cessation and different programs to help eliminate illnesses and to help get our indigent community up to par with their treatments. And so the pharmacy would be a 2+1. I'll be able to service the community and to go into the program, the medical needy program, contract with it, hopefully, and provide discounted medications for those individuals. I know there's a current issue where medications are approved for payment, but they're not shipped in time to be given to the individual that needs the medication. well, when you have an on-site pharmacy, there's checks and balances that can be worked out to where those individuals can get their medications a lot sooner, especially when it's just antibiotics. We would not do any narcotics or anything with the medical needies program, which I don't think you authorized that anyways, for the medical needy. But, at any rate, the 340B program allows discounted rates of those, for those types of medications. So the proposal will be to place a pharmacy on the campus as well as a wellness center to be able to incorporate all of the care for the individuals that are in this community. I want to be right there in the physical therapy building so we can build it out and service the individuals. And I mean, I pretty much gave everyone a one-on-one of every concept that I have. We even want to, with Ms. Chauncey, I know she's big on helping the veterans. We even have a proposal and a plan to help eliminate some of the troubles and the cumbersome times they have with getting into their primary. So primary care is not just an issue in Lake City, Florida, it has become an issue statewide. And because of that, legislative has went into great detail and trying to alleviate some of the hard troubles and the hurdles that occur whenever individuals are trying to seek health care. One of those things was a special meeting that was called where they have allowed, it was like, I think it was statute 155.40. It was special session C, where they've even made it to where governmental hospital authorities can go into business with nonprofits and profits to help alleviate some of those hurdles that are occurring. So in effort to help with that in Lake City, Florida, we want to be able to bring pharmaceutical services and as well as wellness services here to the campus.
Thank you. Questions?
I've got one question. I guess I'll speak up. Ms. Mayo, appreciate your interest in this very much. And you had mentioned, and of course I'm reading here in Mr. Williams' memo, help me again, you used the term primary care. State what you were saying about primary care.
So with primary care, I know that's an issue and that's something that the board is trying to alleviate in the area. So inside the wellness center, what I will have is space so that primary care can come and they can treat individuals on site. So it'll be able, so that way the individual can get treated and seen by their primary care physician on site. And then as soon as they leave from that primary care physician, they go right to the pharmacy and get whatever pharmaceutical that they need. Or if they need more education, they can go onto the wellness side and receive that education.
So this will be like a one-stop
Yes.
shop.
Yes, sir.
And I assume your plans when you get up and running, I assume it would be like in phases. Your main concern would be the pharmacy
Correct.
and the wellness center,
Correct.
and then maybe down the road, the primary care.
Well, we will go ahead and do the build out so that
Yes,
all of
ma'am.
that can be added in there. And as
Yeah.
quick as we can get primary care, we will be able to encompass that in.
So that would be an emphasis
Yes,
on
sir.
your concern, and
Yes.
great. I don't have any other questions, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Wishes from the board?
If we discuss further, as far as what the expectations from the hospital authority would be, whether it be build out or
Well, as far as the renovations, I would hope that the board would help to get the facility renovated and to working conditions for the needs of the individuals in the community. So you may need a pharmacy. So because that building would be the board's building, I would hope that the renovations would be something that the board would help to accomplish.
And obviously, we would intend to qualify these programs for our medical assistance program. And we would send all of our clients to this facility. So it gives us a place to send clients. And as Erica has stated, the idea would be to try to encompass all those things that we provide under one roof, one director, where they can get the best of care that we can provide.
Including the primary care provider.
Yes, and of course, that was not, as you well know, the original proposal that Erica come up with, but in her and my conversations, I've tried to, she's much smarter about that than I am. So I tried to tap into her brain about what we could do to fill that primary care need, because it's been a problem for us. And Erica had some great ideas. I see no reason that we can't be successful at it. I think the idea works in other communities and other places, from everything I've seen and heard. We obviously have some contractual things that we have to work through, but personally, I'm optimistic. I think that all of that can be done and will be done. Erica, what am I missing here?
Yeah, with my conversations with Mr. Williams, I've informed him that, you know, I want a flexible model so that I am working directly with the board to satisfy all the needs that you have for the campus. So I've understood there's a need to locate some of those underinsured individuals. Well, most of them live in this neighborhood, and I think that I have great contact with a lot of individuals in the neighborhood. So I think that we can be a bridge and a gap to help to find those individuals that are underinsured or uninsured and to get them onto the medical needy program. So that'll be also a plus, because if I look last, I think it's down to like between 20 and 30 individuals. And it used to be like well over 1,000 individuals on the program. So I want to be able to help bring those numbers back up. And I think with the team that I have, with us knowing a lot of individuals in this community, just firsthand knowing them and not being afraid to go knock on their doors and say, hey, this program is available, get yourself signed up on it. I don't think there'd be any issue with us bringing those numbers back up and locating those individuals.
Did you envision, I mean, do you think there would be enough space and resources to, if the need was there, to possibly expand it to like urgent care or extended hours, something like that as well?
I know with the test and treat, I can provide acute care. Now, if there was the need, because when I first envisioned this, and me and Mr. Williams talking, it was just on the left side of the PT building. If you're walking in from the front door, it's just the left side. And then there's that whole right side that's just a bunch of offices that we hadn't even really touched on utilizing that space. So, I mean, that is great room to incorporate more of a need if we need to place it there. And it wouldn't be, I don't think, because I think a large scale emergency room would probably put a dent in the budget, if I'm not mistaken, because it costs a lot of money to have those special equipment. And then you'll have to also incorporate more ER positions. So that's gonna take a lot of money out of the budget with the ER. But I think that we can do the acute care on a scale large enough to where some of those quote unquote emergencies that really aren't emergencies, like I got the flu, let me go get tested, stuff like that can be like an urgent need that we can take care of. Yeah.
Erica, I'm an accountant, and so I'm looking at that. Have you had any experience or you had thought about an operating model of an FQHC, the Federal Qualified Health Center?
I've been looking at the different qualifications that we can do with a center. That federal qualified hospital care, it kind of eliminates some of the things that we can do. So I've been reading that. Matter of fact, there's a certification class that pharmacists can take, because they don't teach us all of that in school. So they now at the ASHP, they offer it as a certification class. And I think I'm on the last module, and that's where they're getting deep into the federally qualified health centers.
Yeah.
And so as I'm reading, I see that there's some things that it eliminates me from being able to do if I do it. So it's kind of gonna be the benefits versus what outweighs what. If it's worth it, then yes, then if not, then we can work through all of that. Like, if I look at it and it's worth it, because that will help get discounted rates on a lot of things going through the FQHC. So,
And so have you decided, or you fixed on a model, whether you're a for-profit or a nonprofit?
Well,
I am a for-profit, and then I want to incorporate, I can create a nonprofit as well to do like, healthcare fairs and different things. So we can do that under that umbrella, but I'm a for-profit. No, I actually said that the Florida statute 155.40 and the special meeting said that they made a way to where individuals, for-profit, nonprofit, any type of organization can go into business or go into a partnership or agreement with a hospital authority board.
What statute was that?
It's 155.40.
I think that we're finishing the research on that, but I think that applies only to the hospital facility and the operation of the hospital and not the lease of non-hospital buildings. But that's what we're working through.
Yes.
But you're right, that statute allows a mechanism for that,
Correct.
but we're having to determine whether it would apply to a ground lease versus the hospital
Yes.
as a functioning entity.
Yes, sir.
Erica,
Yes.
one of the things that I did not speak to you about before. One of the biggest headaches that people have is, oh, I've got this insurance and this is my doctor and he does not accept this insurance anymore.
So obviously I've worked in retail, so we come across that all the time. So I actually have a female friend that will be on site with me on scheduled days that is very certain. She's been in insurance for over 30 years. So she will help work through with the clients and help them find plans that will work best for them. So that we can help with those hurdles. And then there's the indigent care plan. And then there's the PAP plans, which is the patient assistance programs, where you can help fill out their applications and mail them off and help get free medications for forever. So there's all types of different plans that we can get those individuals on. And in the meantime, while we're helping them work out their insurance issues.
But you won't turn them away.
No. We'll find
This
out.
is the big
We will
problem.
We will do everything in our ability to not turn someone away, because that's an ongoing issue with healthcare, is individuals being turned away from services because they don't have insurance. So rather that be, we communicate with their physician to find something that can replace what they're on if we can't get it at a cheaper dollar amount for them. Whatever we can do, we'll work hand in hand with their physicians, and that's what the collaborative practice agreement is about. You'll have alternatives already to where it eliminates them from having to wait 2 and 3 days to get a response back from their physician. You already have that plan on spot. Hey, this medication here is $100. If that patient comes and their insurance doesn't cover it, while we're waiting to get a prior authorization or whatever that may be, can we substitute them on X, Y, or Z medication? And so that way they can receive the medication for their needed treatment without being turned away.
Thank you, because that's become a universal problem.
Yes, ma'am.
There's a number of issues that we've tried to prepare Erica for, but she seems to be aware of them. One is, I've told Erica, you're going to get out of county patients. Our programs are not going to help them, not the ones through the authority, those types of things. But Erica is somewhat aware of that, given her background and history. I think she's prepared for those kind of contingencies. Again, I think simply what we're seeking is, before we go through the time and trouble and effort, we want to make sure that we have the blessings of the trustees to come back with you with some form of agreement between the authority and Erica for these services. We would like the opportunity to see if we can't develop an agreement for you to consider.
And the concept that I'm doing is not anything new or anything that I'm not familiar with. Me and I have a partner that's in Tampa, and we just opened up a center very similar to this one that I'm proposing. So it's not a new concept. It's kind of new to what we would see typically in this area. But me and my partner down in Tampa, she's a pharmacist as well. We just opened up one very similar to this. And so she's definitely gonna be right here, any hurdles, hoops, all that stuff, helping us work out the kinks. But we just opened it, how long ago? It's probably 2 months ago, I believe, 2 or 3 months. We just opened this. It's the same type of center, so it's nothing new. It's just new to our neighborhood.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
unless Mr. Bullard has, did you have some questions, Mr. Bullard?
I didn't know. I got a comment, but you go ahead.
Okay, so that I can have the same painting that you have, I assume that, what you're looking at when you open the doors, it would actually be the Mayo Pharmacy and Wellness Center,
Yes.
or would it just be Mayo Pharmacy
So the pharmacy and wellness center. it'd
and
be-
Wellness Center?
One.
And that would occupy just part of the building over here, or?
Well, at first, Mr. Williams wants us to expand it through the whole building, because it will only make sense if the whole building is there to utilize all of the space in it.
Yes, ma'am.
So we will build out the model to incorporate the entire building.
And then the primary care.
Yes, sir.
Great.
Which is, yeah, you have to add that into there.
I don't have any other,
From a physical location, the primary care is rather easy because that building contains what was Dr. Reyes's old office. And quite frankly, it probably will not require that much refurbishment in order to make it ready. So it's really just a matter of finding the model that works for Erica and for the authority when it comes to the primary care side of it.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to listen to public comments before we discuss it amongst the board.
I'd like to hear what you have to say.
Oh, Mr. Bullard, yes, absolutely.
Just quickly, and I'll say this as being short-lived on this board. This is probably the most positive thing that I've seen presented to this board and since I've been here, and I applaud you in trying to bring something like this to the community.
Very
And
much.
I think that's very admirable on your part.
Thank you.
Okay, Tom.
Chair, you have a hand raised also.
There we go. Nice to meet you. Leah, do you mind if we're gonna do some public comments now,
Okay.
just to get an overview before we do our final discussion, if that's all right?
Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation.
Thank
All right, looks like I've got, is it Shelley Stroud? Is that what you're seeing, Nate?
Negative.
No?
Meridian.
Oh, I see it. Right here. All right, let me try and, how do I unmute them? All I can do is lower their hand, and I don't want to do that.
It looks like they don't have the mic.
Oh, they don't have a microphone.
Any type of comment?
If they want to know.
No, well, they've got a we've got a question. Can you type a comment? Because we can't hear you. And I don't have a way to
Yeah, if they can find the chat, they can type a question.
Yes, sir. Sir, if I could get you to chat or type in your comment in the chat, we could probably do it, but I can't do that. While they're working on that, are there any additional comments or Ms. Lemon?
Yes, good evening, board members. Each of you took an oath of office to be a good steward of authority finances. You are also responsible for following the enabling legislations that created the authority and follow proper procedures. The purpose of the authority was to provide care for the indigent based upon certain criteria. And the authority can rent property to those in the healthcare field. However, what I don't know, she said she's for profit. And Attorney Kennan has already explained, we cannot give money to a for-profit entity. And if she's for profit, what is she expecting from the authority? And also, I don't believe she was in sounds like a great plan. But did she respond to either the first or second request for proposals? Because somebody else may want that building now. So you're kind of putting her out there, but she wasn't there in the beginning, whether it was Hopeless Bridges, went by the wayside. And so what I need to know, did she respond to the first or second request for proposals?
I thought so.
Yes or no?
No,
No?
no. However, there are no policies pertaining to what happens when you go through not one, but two requests for proposal.
Yeah.
You vet the proposals that were received. So what we did is we looked and saw what the state of Florida allowed through the Department of Management Services.
Okay.
Department of Management Services allows governmental entities to negotiate once you've gone through the legal process, but did not find anybody qualified or that vetted. So all other laws are intact, but as far as the procurement side of it goes,
In other words, you covered your bases.
that's what we believe to be the law.
Okay, my other question is, what does Dr. Mayo expect in return from the trustees and the authority?
Well, I have requested Todd to do some legal research because obviously anything we bring back to the trustees needs to have been reviewed legally. Do I believe we can write checks to Dr. Mayo and just say, here's a check? No, but we can certainly pay for services. And at the very least, we can do that. These are our buildings. These are your buildings we can-
For services.
that are rendered there. And these are your buildings. We can certainly make improvements to those buildings.
Okay, so would she be paying rent for the building?
Well, we just asked permission to sit down and try and negotiate what we believe would be fair to both parties, and we've not yet had a chance to do that.
Okay, so you covered your bases because she wasn't in the first or second set of proposals.
Well, I can only speak from a staff person's perspective, not from an attorney's perspective or from the board member.
Okay.
There's nothing that I've ran into thus far that tells me that we've hit some brick wall and have to stop. And hopefully that will not happen and we'll be.
Sounds like a fair use of the building.
And if for some reason we do, we'll try to find another way in which to circumvent it, to do it proper and legal. And Erica wants nothing but it to be proper and
Oh,
legal.
I know. And if it's providing prescription services with what Cynthia used to do and Sonia's handling now, would that roll over to Dr. Mayo's plan?
I think in part, yes, most definitely. I think we talked before as a board about point of service. It's best for our customer, our client, it's best for the public. So yes, I very much am going to propose at some point that they basically have for lack of a better word, a license from the authority
Yeah,
to do qualifications as long as the conditions they set are met. Point of service. It doesn't make sense to me that somebody goes to a building and is asked to walk 2 blocks back.
Yeah.
And then go back for service.
that makes sense. Okay, thank you.
Can we see it?
Yeah, if you can open your chat. It's probably in the 3 dots down at the bottom.
Okay. What should I do there? Should I read this?
That would be what I think, yeah.
That would, yeah, read it into the record on the tape.
Okay, so there's a chat, from Meridian Behavioral Healthcare Violations Survival. The chat, says Meridian Behavioral Health, Inc. Liar law firms, show me the difference. William Wall, Meridian Behavioral Healthcare, Inc. is, I'm not reading that, appears to be anti-Semitic. look at LinkedIn social media group, Meridian Healthcare, Behavioral Healthcare by Joseph Sherrill. Mental health violations behind the HIPAA curtain. Torture, botched psychological records, Meridian Behavioral Healthcare, Inc. And Renee Morris denied my recovery. So we have those, they're indicating they want us to look on the, what I gathered from that was to look at the LinkedIn social media group Meridian Behavioral Healthcare by Joseph Sherrill. So I appreciate that comment, sir. I will certainly take a look at that. Are there any other comments? Yes, sir, Mr. Atkins.
I just echo Mr. Bullard's comment about this being the best thing I've heard too, since I've been sitting on the back row, front row tonight. It sounds very, very positive. I certainly think it's worth working out the technicalities and the legalities and to make this work. And I would suggest that possibly incorporating primary care might come sooner rather than later. There are primary care providers in the area that may be interested in a collaboration and having the opportunity to offer services where there is a pharmacy and pharmaceutical education and wellness all in the same place while maintaining their own practice. And I agree that probably will take no refurbishing for the other end, you know. Looked at that before.
Yeah, you've seen that.
Yeah, right, and it is, well, it used to be primary care. And the exam rooms are there and the tables and the equipment and everything. So there may be a way, I'm sure Dale and Todd and you all will figure out a way to make it work legally and operationally. And with the primary care resources that are already available in town, I think you've really got possibility of something going here.
Thank you, sir.
Like in these meetings.
Yes.
Any other comments? Okay. So now we're back to our wishes of the board. Do we have to, just out of curiosity, do we actually have to make a motion in order for you to continue on negotiations with Ms. Mayo?
Let me defer that, Todd.
I don't think so. If you could, I mean, if the pleasure of the board is for us to proceed with finalization of the legal research and then sit down with Ms. Mayo and try to negotiate based on what that research shows, whether there's a model we can work with, then if that's the pleasure of the board, we can proceed forward. You're not taking any official action tonight. You're just directing staff on what to do. And we were asking for a consensus of the board before we go out and do all of this work. And then wanted the board on board before we started that process.
Risk of alienating the board. I'm getting lots of nods.
I'd be in favor of moving forward.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I think that's unanimous to direct you to continue negotiations with Ms. Mayo.
And I'm sure you can let us know by March 11th. I'm teasing. I'm teasing Mr. Tennant, I'm sorry.
He's right.
I know
I'm
where you're
busy
busy
on
on
the
Saturday.
7th. Would be better.
We wanted to fish Eaton Creek just to play a banjo and a tambourine.
All right. Appreciate your presentation, Ms. Mayo. I'm gonna move on. We're gonna hear, the next item of business is to hear a presentation from Corey Cooper.
Mr. Chairman, if
Yes,
I
sir.
may, of course, this agenda, because of the special meeting and publication requirements, was published the day after or prepared the day after we had our last regular meeting. We immediately contacted Erica. We immediately contacted Corey. And by the time I got to speak with Corey a day or so later, he has already had a conflict. So he wanted to be here, but he couldn't be here due to that conflict. So I did tell Corey that I was going to kind of say a few words. The first thing I would like to do is to do a clarification. We discussed some of this proposal in terms of location at our last regular meeting. And we were even talking about using Suite 101. And that was the reason you postponed that decision from Meridian to use 101. And it even at one time had implications on the two-story women's center prior to court administration being interested. when I met with Corey a week ago, that was really my first in-person meeting with him. We had talked by phone on numerous occasions. And quite frankly, I was talking to him thinking acute care. When I meet with Corey, it's not what we're talking about at all. We're talking about acute rehabilitation, of which he is extremely knowledgeable. He was extremely impressive to me. But I told you that to tell you this. There's currently only one building on that entire campus that would help Corey with his plan today, and that is the hospital. He needs beds. He needs hospital rooms and beds. So what I've indicated to Corey I was going to do is, number one, depending on what may or may not happen with Meridian and that transfer, if it is decided to transfer the hospital to Meridian, I will try to broker a meeting between Meridian and Mr. Cooper where they can potentially talk about whether they have anything in common, any goals they can work toward. Because if you look at Meridian's timeline for utilizing that space, there is, it's actually over years. So this may be an opportunity for Meridian and Mr. Cooper to get together and use that space for what is an unmet need in the community. It's my understanding there are no acute rehab centers here. There are no LTACs, which is another type here. And that's what he's interested in. He and I also talked at length about standalone ERs, ACA licensure. He had told me things that I did not know, such as different types of ACA licenses you could apply for. Typically when you apply for an ACA license, you apply for a specific use of a bed. Corey was telling me, look, they do have a license where you can, if you needed it for an ER bed, you could use it for that. But by the same token, if you needed it for a rehab bed, you could use it for that. You didn't have to wait until the end of the year when you applied for licensure to have the license changed. A lot of education there. But I went through this long explanation. I mean, Corey's background is in your agenda packet. I certainly don't need to read that to you. I did meet with him. He was extremely knowledgeable. But the simple truth is neither the Women's Center nor Suite 101 is anything that's going to meet his requirement. There's only one building on campus that does, and that would be the hospital itself. However, he is interested in discussing with you future opportunities should something not work out with the use of the old Lakeshore with Meridian. And I think he's well worth meeting with just because of his knowledge and his understanding of these types of programs. Very interesting, very knowledgeable guy. Enjoyed talking to him. Okay.
So really, there's no required action for us.
The only thing I can do here is wait and see what the trustees may do with Meridian and the hospital. Based on whatever that may be, then I'll know what the next step is with Mr. Cooper.
Okay.
Did you mention something about even building?
Yeah, he's interested in talking to you about that.
So, Mr. Chairman, he mentioned beds, not 100 beds though.
No. He would be interested in like one floor. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's a 100-bed facility. He's not talking about all those beds. No, sir. Sir?
He's not interested in the whole facility?
No, sir. No, sir. He's affiliated with Select. Select is a pretty common brand name. You see those rehab facilities around. He's been affiliated with them. He too, by education, is a pharmacist. I think Eric has heard of him.
I've heard of him. He's not practicing from my knowledge.
No, I think he's moved way up. Yeah, he seems to me, I didn't ask, but it seems to me like Corey's kind of moved on up in the healthcare world. But anyway, I mean, he's got an interest in this area because, in his words, there are none of those facilities. There are no facilities of that type here. there is a demand. And he's interested in filling that demand. The only question is how, because we're talking hospital beds and hospital beds are expensive.
Comments from the board before we move on? I think I'm in favor of, yeah, whatever, once we figure out what happens with the hospital.
Is it too early to put him with Meridian now?
Not for me. I mean, if that's what y'all would like me to
Yeah.
do, I'll try to broker that
I would like
meeting.
to see that,
Okay, I can go ahead and do that.
and, if it's not too much of a burden. I don't know how the other members feel about that.
I'm all for it to move ahead and have the conversation. Any other comments from the board before I move on? All right. Next item on the agenda, request from the Third Judicial Circuit.
I don't know my question.
I am so sorry, Miss Barbara. Yes.
Is, Mr. Cooper, I don't know if he has a doctor certification like Dr. Mayo has, but he would be a for-profit entity.
We did not get into any business model. We got into what is it specifically that you're looking to do? How can Lakeshore Hospital Authority help you? And does what you want to do, does it meet the requirements and needs of the community?
And also follow the enabling legislation. Because you mentioned new construction in that fourth paragraph of that letter. I think that would be not easy, maybe difficult. Because if you're going to build something specifically for a person, that opens a lot of cages of wild animals.
For service,
Well, we can,
for service.
I think that's why we're here. Let's have a conversation.
Okay, thank you.
yeah, I mean, I think we're way ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, that's.
But it was in there.
I appreciate it. I
And we
appreciate
did
it.
touch on it, but that's for another day.
Any other public comments that I may have missed? I'm gonna move on to the request from the Third Judicial Circuit requesting use of the Women's Center.
And just to give the board an introduction and a reminder is, I think this is the third time the court administration has visited with us. Here, I can represent to you that nobody that we're currently having discussions with that provides medical services is a candidate for the medical center, the women's medical building. So that was a question that come up before, but now that we spoke to Mr. Cooper, we've gotten far enough along with Erica. We have no options right now from a medical provision standpoint for the two-story women's center. So there was a question that come up at the last meeting. And the question was, can you statutorily, through the enabling legislation, lease property to an entity that's not providing medical services? And I think Todd is prepared to give you his opinion regarding that.
I think we could do it with an interlocal agreement together with a lease with the county. The enabling legislation says that, without limitation, the foregoing to borrow money, accept grants, contributions, enter into contracts, leases, or other transactions with the United States government or any agency thereof, the state or any agency thereof, the county of Columbia, city of Lake City, or with any other public body of any nature whatsoever. So they, I believe, would qualify in that regard. And it'd be a matter of entering into an interlocal agreement and lease with the county.
If that is the case, Mr. Chairman, then staff and Todd are more than prepared to sit down and try to work out an agreement and put back before you just as soon as possible.
Sure. I thought that we were gonna still look for medical purposes, though. Whether it be urgent care or something like that. I mean, nothing against the courts. I mean, but I just think that medical should be our top priority to get some sort of medical services on the campus. That's my only comment.
Yes, sir.
I do, but go ahead.
Well, I have several thoughts about it. Mr. Keenan, I'm sure can answer a few of them, and that is if we enter the interlocal agreement with the county, I understand that. And then I assume the county would reach out to the other 6 counties of the Third Circuit for contributions to do the necessary repairs to the building, which we guesstimate it to be between $125,000 and $300,000 or $200,000 in order to make it ADA compliant. That's all.
I don't know how their system works. It would be if we negotiated an agreement with them and that agreement provided they have to do A, B, and C, it would be up to them as to how they would fund the A, B, and C.
Either that or they would be given a credit. Columbia County would be given a large credit, like we used to do for office space. But, and I kind of agree with Mr. Beal. That's why I was hoping when we had the conversation with the courts in the last 2 meetings that Mr. Williams, do you know of any medical provider that is anywhere in the United States that wants to use that building? Because rather than us leasing the building, my thoughts is that we hold the public hearing and declare the building surplus property and give it to the county, like I stated 2 meetings ago. If we have exhausted all medical providers that could possibly come into that facility.
I won't say that we have because, you know, you still have the option of running your own clinic, for example. I mean, you know, long ago, we knew that Shands, for example, would provide staffing. We would be responsible for our own billing and collections. They simply want to be paid for service provided, have no other responsibilities. But we certainly don't want to compete against somebody that we're about to assist to go into business either. Now, we get to a level of care beyond what we're talking about, which such as ambulatory care, standalone ER, those kinds of things. From everything I've seen, I believe and have been told, the make ready to bring any of those buildings up for that based on the current standards is just not cost effective.
And I want to be clear, maybe I'm saying it wrong, but we had Mercy Medical over there for a while. I don't mean an emergency room. I mean urgent care that's open extended hours, a walk-in clinic if you have the flu or need to get stitches or tested for something. That's what I meant. So there's twice, I think, was misinterpreted.
And I agree with your thoughts on that, Mr. Bill, 100%. But rather than us wasting the time, not wasting the time, but taking the time to negotiate with the county on that, I mean, it's quite obvious it's going to take $150,000 to $250,000 to repair the building, meaning that we're just saying they can use the building for 3 years, 4 years, because I think the lease proposal was $55,000 to $60,000, and rather than do that, declare it surplus and give it to the county. And I think Mr. Bullard mentioned a couple months ago, would the county be willing to take it? I don't know. Have we asked that question?
Oh, I think the county would be willing to take it.
Well, rather than us spending that type of money or either the counties, meaning the 7 counties of the Third Circuit, pay $200,000 over the next 3 years, 4 years, they'd have to pay more than that to get it ADA compliant.
Yeah.
And so that the courts could occupy it. I think it's a great concept. And I've been on the board for 26 months now and haven't seen a legitimate interest in the building for medical. And I agree with you, Mr. Bill, it's a shame that we can't, but even if we get somebody to come to utilize it, we're gonna have to put $350,000-$300,000 into the building, correct? Mr. Williams?
Yeah, our estimate was 298.
290,
Excuse me, 289.
Yeah, and that was,
And that was the estimate we shared with the trustees
I'd like
several
to,
months
like to
ago.
hear my fellow board members' comments.
Well, I think my thoughts are, a new facility would probably be a little more cost effective if we were gonna go that route of actually providing one. We have dirt to do it. I'm, for what it's worth, I can't vote, but my vote would be to do exactly that plan, to declare it surplus, push the building off and send it down the road to the county. And then if we were gonna build a new facility, we could build a smaller, more streamlined facility. But again, with us going into negotiations with it's Dr. Mayo, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, with Dr. Mayo, I don't want to undercut her business in the same
Absolutely.
breath. And then if we can have, if her businesses flourishes, et cetera, and can offer those services, why not just press them, offset them? I don't necessarily know that we want to get back into the business of running an urgent care.
Is Miss Mayo gonna be interested in coming down here if it's a government campus instead of a medical campus though?
That's a Miss Mayo question.
Can I? I
Sure,
don't know the,
please.
don't know the rules.
No, please.
Okay, I was just gonna ask, have we spoken with the college about possibly, I know dental is an issue, about possibly putting a dental class where we can have training there at that particular building, train dental hygienists and, different entities in that facility, have a pharmacy. I can do a pharmacy school as well, not a pharmacy school, but pharmacy technician courses and stuff. How we talked with the college about possibly partnering. I know they don't have a dental hygienist program there, and I know dental is something that's needed for the indigent. Just as courses versus actual having a full-blown skills, medical clinic, so that I don't know how that will impact the budget as far as $298,000 for the repairs and different things, but it will be like I don't know what the space is at the college as to why they don't have a dental hygienist program. But if they can offer it here on this campus, it's medical, it's something that'll be helpful to the community, because once you put one of those programs in place, they offer free service. So just wondering if that was something that you guys thought.
I don't think we've talked to him about, have we talked to him about that?
I don't recall specifically talking dental. Now, back when they proposed to use the hospital
Mhm.
and that sort of teetered out, we did ask the college then, were they interested in the two-story women's center for their needs and uses? And I don't think they were. I don't think they were at that time.
I know they have PT and they have.
Oh, I'm
nurse-
sorry.
Go ahead. I
No,
know
no,
like
go ahead,
PT
Ms.
and
Mayor.
nurses and different things
Yep.
that if
Yep.
I don't know if you've had that conversation, but I think just
Well-
having it as a healthcare clinic for the college.
If you also remember when we asked the college that question, of course, they originally wanted the building at 10 million, and they said that they would take 2 to 3 million of the money and demolish the hospital and then build a facility which was compatible to them. So if we looked at the college getting the two-story women's building, they probably would just demolish it or either not use it. But again,
I think
we gotta do something with the building.
I think it's fair, though, on behalf of the trustees, for the public to understand that y'all have said you would make arrangements either through land donations or otherwise to assist an educational element that promoted health and well-being for the community.
Yes, we did.
I mean, and that still goes as far as I know. But, they have not yet decided to act on that I'm aware of.
Can I comment?
Please, Ms. Chan.
As usual, I disagree with both of you respectfully. We do not know what's gonna be available 6 months down the road, looking for rent. And my understanding was that if we do lease it to the court system, they're gonna refurbish the building, will cost us. Okay? And this is what you guys are talking about. It's gonna cost us so much money, it's gonna this, that. Well, if it doesn't cost us anything, why shouldn't we take advantage of it? And it is our property. But we are being good citizens by sharing it with another entity that is our neighbor in the meantime, because we're not using it.
Mhm.
But they're maintaining it. It's not costing us. But when they get tired of the building or when their lease is up, then we can ask them to move and maybe we will have found somebody to rent the building. If we haven't found somebody that maybe has shown an interest in it, we can continue leasing it.
Well, of course, I'm reading on the letter here, I'm sorry. Mr.
Go
Chairman.
ahead, go ahead.
I'm reading from the letter from the county attorney. Have you read that letter? Where it states, to the extent the county or the counties within the circuit fund these repairs or improvements to the premises, the hospital authority would credit back these payments in the form of rent forgiveness. For example, if the court or county spends $5,000 to repair the HVAC system, that same amount would be forgiven for the next rental payment, meaning if they spent $5,000 and their rent is $5,000, they would get a free month's rent, free.
Is it
And if
really
they're gonna
free?
spend 250 or 300,000, do the math, if it's at $60,000 a year for the rental, they stay there for 4 years for free.
But it doesn't cost us anything.
Well, then we get a building back that's 4 years older that probably gonna
And we
need
can
another
pay
$500,000
to have it
worth of.
demolished,
worth of-
right?
Excuse me?
We can pay to have it demolished.
Well, you can, cause I won't be here, but anyway. I'd love to hear Mr. Buller's thoughts.
I was listening.
Well, excuse me, I saw a hand raised. Can we listen to public comments before we discuss it amongst the board?
Let's do it. Let's do it. Ms. Lindley.
Last month, I suggested the board give the Women's Center to the county to be dispersed and used. And I thought that building had already been declared surplus. It was not declared surplus with Meridian. I thought the only things that were not picked up were the 2 lots that Jack bought and a tax sale. But I think, pipe dreams of keeping it for 10 years, we don't know what's gonna happen in 10 years. If the court wants it, give it to them and turn around and give the records building to the county. And Gail said we didn't need to be in the real estate business. If we get rid of them, we won't be in the real estate business. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lindley. Any additional public comments? All right. Or do you have any thoughts?
So, Ms. Jansen, you're in favor of giving those to the court system to build it?
No,
She don't want to give in.
under no circumstances am
Okay.
I agreeing to that.
Release that to them.
Leasing it to them with them doing full maintenance and repair.
Well, that was a
And-
clear kind of direction you had there, okay. Clear stuff.
And then if we find somebody in the medical field that would be interested in something in this area, when their lease is up, we can bring them in. We have that option. Once we give something away, we no longer have an option.
Well, Mr. Kennedy, are you in favor of a lease? Out of curiosity? Would you?
I'm not in favor of a lease.
Mhm.
I think the building needs to be, I think we need to set it on the next agenda item to declare the property surplus. And if Columbia County, a board of county commissioners are willing to assume the risk of that property, I say give it to them, deed it to them. Hand them the keys because right now, Dwayne's not here, but I'm sure Mr. Williams can tell us off the top of your head, that building's sitting vacant. If I'm not mistaken, I think I was told that it's when it was occupied, it was about $1,200 a month just for the 2 floors, Florida Power and Light, FPL. And then
Yeah.
that's not the city utilities. So if we leased it to the courts for $6,000 a month, and they are going to be using both floors, we're going to be spending out of our back pocket $1,200 to $1,400 a month for FPL, and then the city water is another $200. We got $1,500 a month taken out of that $5,000, and they got to have it ADA compliant before they walk in it to the building. I just can't see us spending any more money like that. I think we need to look at declaring it surplus property and get rid of it.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know anybody that rents anything that doesn't pay for their own electric and own water.
Well, if we pay, it just depends on the terms of the lease, right?
Yeah.
At least you could do that, if not.
Well,
And
But
please remember that previously in that building, they were doing X-ray, which pulls a lot of electric.
I think my only comment on that would be we're gonna price the courts out of the building if we keep going up. Now they're gonna be looking at 8,000 and they would probably best be staying out there at the west of town at the First Federal Bank building, but again, I've said enough. I don't need to make any more comments.
well. Wishes of the board.
I would like to look into a lease agreement.
Well, do we wanna? I think at this point, we gotta make it into a motion, or do we need to make it into a motion, or do we direct you to?
You can direct them.
You
If
can,
it-
you
if-
can direct
if
them unless
the-
someone makes a motion to do something different.
Yeah,
Make a motion,
Say, if there's no motions, then I think we've. Dare I say we are in agreement to lease it? Mr. Bill, are we? I mean, I, for what it's worth, my opinion is we may have exhausted the possibility of a medical use at this current time. Going in there, that's just my opinion.
When's the last time that we actually looked and
That's
asked
true.
for
That's true.
interest though? I mean, we haven't done that since 2021.
I think the second one's 22.
22.
something like that.
It's been a few years, but we got interest in the other one. I mean, that one's.
Again, I mean, I would love for the courts to have space. It has nothing to do with the courts. I just think our mission is to do healthcare first. That's my only.
I agree. You're not off base with that. I appreciate it. My only thoughts are that it's sitting there vacant and we didn't put an RFP out and the courts came and found us because it's vacant space and it fits their needs.
I agree, and I hate spending money on a vacant building. We can give the entire operation of the county and I'd be fine with that. Everything.
I can tell you all personally that I am tired of signing the power bills. I ain't been doing it for as long as you had to do it, but I'm tired of signing the power bills.
Mr. Williams, on average, what does that building cost a month just sitting there vacant?
Well, we often talk in terms of the entire campus, which we know is the 50,000 a month. So some expenses are blended in like on insurance and et cetera. But we estimate that just that 2-story women's center is costing us $2,000 to $2,500 a month.
I could have a lot of fun with that.
So we gotta, let's see. Is anybody gonna make a motion or do we want to direct them?
I'll make the motion that we look into lease negotiations.
There's a motion on the floor to move forward into lease negotiations. Is there a second?
It does.
So there's no second to the motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we put it on the agenda for the next meeting. That we have a public hearing to declare the women's two-story building surplus property.
Motion on the floor to declare it surplus. Make it be clear, I cannot second that motion.
Correct, and the motion is not to declare it surplus, the motion is to
Put it on the,
schedule a public hearing
Thank you.
to
That's-
determine
to determine.
the public's input on declaring it surplus.
There's a motion on the floor to do what Mr. King just stated. Is there a second? Okay. We have a motion and a second. Should we do this individually? Please.
Please.
I would roll call. them.
Let's roll call the votes.
No,
Ms. Chancey's no.
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy.
Yes.
I'm gonna make the chairman vote no.
Is that a tie? So I vote yes. So the motion passes.
Yes.
Okay. So it will be on the agenda for the next meeting. All right, so we have exhausted that one. Let's move on to the next one, the request from Meridian Behavioral Healthcare regarding the use of Suite 101.
Again, Mr. Chairman, just to remind the trustees, Suite 101 is basically on this floor on the west side of the building. It has a separate entrance. It is composed of a lobby area, about 4 individual offices, a small break room and a small conference room. It's really a pretty nice suite for the size that it is. Currently, it too is included in the lease that the county has. However, we can be released or they can be released from that at any time. Meridian proposed allowing a contingent that works for mental health cases that are currently working out of their automobiles and cars to use that space. Now, something's come up since this was put on the agenda. You heard some talk earlier about dental care. And that seems to have gotten some new life. So it has been for some time a consideration that this building would lend itself to dental care simply because of the layout of the building. Now, does that mean we're going to get a dental care opportunity? No. Does it mean that there's not some discussion that just started bringing up some old efforts? Yes. So I don't want us to be, I don't wish to cause Meridian any problems. But as of right now, today, until somebody does a site evaluation and tells me different, that would be the most logical place to put that type of a clinic. It's close to the health department. Those programs sort of marry with health departments and how they're performing and how they work. Easy to get into, parking, etc. So I don't want to cause them problems, but I would have to say at this point, my recommendation would be we do need to exhaust that conversation before a decision is made about Suite 101.
Public comments? The upstairs has that room and that room. Why is it, or could it be possible that Meridian have people up there, there? It's not as if those buildings get used a lot.
Well-
And if something comes up, say, hey, boys and girls or it's or whatever you are, you gotta leave the room for the day.
It
Go
is
work
all,
in your car.
it's already been discussed, and the answer to that is yes, it could be. But until you know what you might have to have for the other program, I would be reluctant to say go ahead.
Well, don't even offer, say, hey, if you want something, you gotta do this.
Well, I
You're
can't,
the land, you know, you guys are the landlord.
yeah, but
Take action.
Barbara, you can't just say, take it.
Upstairs?
No,
Why?
I certainly don't have that authority to.
Well, the trustees could. So put
And
it on the
with an
agenda for-
agreement and all that good stuff, so.
Mr. Chairman, I think they need to change the tape.
Yes, they did.
Yes.
I was gonna let Mrs. Lindley's comment run out, and then I was gonna say, let's take a quick.
Okay, I'm done.
Are you good? All right, let's take a quick 3-minute recess to swap tapes.
2 minutes.
2 minutes, just kidding.
One.
I'll unmute and we are back in session. The tape is changed and we are picking back up on conversation of the request from Meridian Behavioral Healthcare regarding the use of Suite 101. And we have any additional public comments?
If the board wanted to comply with the recommendation of staff, the appropriate thing, I believe, would be to motion to table it. And that way it's still there pending it being placed back on the agenda after exploration of the dental issue.
We can do that. Board member comments?
I certainly think the dental, if that would come into fruition, I think that would be a very positive, relationship between the board and the community also. If there is a need, I think in this community, is some kind of technical training, whatever that may be. I think that's something that Columbia lacks, and it's certainly needed to train people to go into the work field. So maybe that's something that the dental clinic could bring to something like Dr. Mayo was talking about earlier.
May I make a comment?
You may, please. Mr.
Gentlemen, this only proves my point that we don't know what our facilities can be used for. We have been how many years figuring out what this should be. And now we're gonna make it a dental clinic, which I think is 100% positive. Okay, but you're gonna give another building away, which may be 3 years down the road, which is less time than it's taken us to come up with a dental clinic. You're gonna give it away. Okay, that being said, can we ask Dale to discuss with Meridian if they would be interested in one of the rooms upstairs rather than this, so we can move one way or another at our next meeting? Hmm?
I think so. I'm listening to comments. We,
I mean, do you think they would be interested in something like that, Dale? Is that,
Well, if they're working out of a car, I mean, you know, I don't think they're gonna be willing to pay anything for it. It's going to be a courtesy thing.
Well, why can't they come in here?
But look, I'll be glad to have the conversation. I do not wish to speak for them. I do not know exactly whether they would or they would not, but there are tables and chairs in those two conference rooms. They are used, but they are not used daily by outside interest. I'll be glad to contact them and ask them, would one of those work, and, you know, see what arrangements can be made. I can certainly do that.
yeah, I mean, I think, let's see if they'd be interested in using one of those conference rooms upstairs. I'd be interested to know if the dental clinic would be interested in the 2-story women's center.
Okay.
That's a very valid point that Mr. Deal made. Yeah, if the dental clinic go into a 2-story building, I'd like to know that before the March 12th meeting. But as far as Meridian goes, I stated at the meeting that we had 2 weeks ago, I don't really want to get the cart ahead of the horse until we know whether Meridian is even going to go on the big campus yet, rather than giving them a small campus. And I know that they were talking when was her name, Miss Cohen? Cohen, when she said last 2 weeks ago that there'd be about 15 employees, and I'd really would like to have a better picture in my mind as how that they plan to use any of the space in this building, whether there'll be walk-ins, visitations, that type of thing. I mean, if it was just for the staff using to do reports and to keep their own equipment here, I don't have a problem with that. But if it's going to be open to the public, I have a big concern about that. Did they express that to you, Mr. Williams, or?
I really know no more about it than what y'all heard yourself.
They have a campus south
when
of town.
Lauren was here.
Yeah. They have a campus south of town down Michigan Avenue, and I just don't want to get the cart ahead of the horse with Meridian.
But I'll be more than glad to give them a call and get you some answers. See if they would be willing to locate upstairs. Bring that back to you at your next meeting.
That's sufficient.
Yeah, in the meantime, is anybody occupying Suite 101?
Toys for Tots.
And
But she has been put on notice
okay,
that,
because I think this time last year, we made a decision on that to have her relocated.
yeah, and I've advised Inga that, you know, we were working diligently to put medical uses there. And of course, now that we're early in the year, hopefully there's not a lot of inventory there. That would be a problem for them. So, you know, we're trying to help, but
I get it.
Everybody feel confident we've exhausted that item? Dale's gonna discuss it with them. We're good with that? I feel good. Okay. We'll make sure before I move on. Next item on the agenda, declaring parcels of land 11,793 and 11,794 owned by the Hospital Authority as surplus property.
Mr. Chairman, those two parcels are very small parcels. My understanding is they were previously purchased through a tax deed sale by the authority. I have located and identified them on a sketch where you would know where they were at. This is what I think you need to know about the two parcels. Number one is there is a building that we never talk about, which is the old EMS building currently used for storage. It is on the northeast corner of the Lakeshore campus. It's a metal building, but it is a nice metal building. It's substantial. It's not something that is, you just want to go tear down. It has useful purpose. Depending on what you may or may not put in that building, those lots could potentially be parking areas for that.
Isn't it, aren't those lots wet?
I'm sorry.
I think those lots are wet.
Well, but Miss Lemley, I know that, but at the same time, if you were to go and create a parking lot, you got to create retention, stormwater. They may have some beneficial use. I'm just letting the trustees know. So we've not allocated that space to anybody. We've not really talked much about it. But it's a conditioned room in part. It has offices in it. It has storerooms. Right now, it's full of clutter that came where the hospital started using it as storage, and it's still there. But that building has useful
Potential.
And I just think as you make your decision, you should consider that. Also, it has been brought to my attention that these lots, through the family that used to own them, has an heir that is interested. If you should decide to declare them surplus, they would definitely like to bid on them. So I'm just simply making you aware of that. But I want you guys to understand that that building does have some utility over there. And until you decide what you're going to do with it, you might want to think about that.
Before we discuss public comments, Ms. Lemley.
Dale mentioned the old EMS building. If it's in good shape other than junk in there, that could be a dental clinic. Or toys for tots can go there.
Thank you, Ms. Lemley. Any other public comments? That section, okay. Board member comments. I'll pull it up on my phone, Dale.
I think it would be an ideal place for Toys for Tots.
Probably would, I didn't even think about it.
And then we're also performing a community service until we find some other use for it.
I'd make a motion to declare parcels 11,793 and 11,794 as surplus.
Second.
Some motion on the floor to declare the 11,793 and 11,794 surplus, and there is a second.
No.
Any additional comments before we go to? Okay, so we'll do a roll call vote, Ms. Chansey.
No.
Yes.
Without looking at it, I have to vote no.
Yes.
To
Just make it a tiebreaker again?
Yep.
Okay. I'm going to go with yes. Well,
Are those to be offered for sale now?
Just surplus.
I believe it should be declared as surplus.
I think it's surplus, and I'd like to wait and let Mr. Bullard take a look at it and.
Yeah.
In the future, I mean, if we have a use or somebody, I know you said there was somebody interested in it. I mean, let's see if there's a use for us. If not, then let's get rid of it.
We'll take a look. All right. On to the next item. And I did have, before we got into this, I know this is, Mr. Tompkins, you said you had a comment? Or we were going to move on into
A
the
little more than that, yes.
progress report?
I'm Richard Tompkins, last year's, lack of a better word, president, this year's secretary of Lacey Lodge number 27. The letters that were sent to us, some things I want to go over and clarify some things. He gave us a letter, basically, you can give us quick claim deed or about 25,000 or either swap property. And which in turn, that was dated January 16th. I received it as an email that day. On January 18th, we had a meeting, which is our regular stated meeting, and went over, et cetera, and the senses of, and we sent our letter back to Mr. Kennens on January 22nd, which basically the three questions answered, which y'all, I assume, have a copy of that letter.
Before we move on with that, yeah, but some people here probably don't know who you represent. You said Lodge number 27, but for.
Lexington Masonic Lodge number 27.
Thank you.
Which has a revert clause with the parking lot, I guess you say, which basically is block 111. All right. And our information back to you, we request a warranty deed, not a quick claim deed, unless you can show written reason why you cannot give us a warranty deed, because what was given to y'all, or actually Lakeshore Hospital, what was it? Corporation back then, is what it's called. A special warranty deed was given because it has exception in there. That being said, we also gave back a price tag if you really didn't want to give us our property back. That we gave you a price of $500,000. And I understand through the grapevine, basically you thought we were blowing smoke. We always do our homework, and I'll give you examples of what I'm talking about. We looked on all this public record, so you can look it up yourself if you like. We looked in this area of the same size footprint of the property in question we're talking about, which is block 111. Some property that was purchased back in 2006, and just so happened it was purchased by Lakeshore Hospital Authority. One parcel is surrounded by roads of Washington Street, Davis Avenue, Leon Street, and Taylor Avenue. And that was bought for a purchase price of $410,000. Another piece of property we looked at, again, it's surrounded by Leon Street, Hernando Avenue, Franklin Street, and Marion Avenue. And that was bought for $710,000. And last but not least, we did three, and the last one we looked at was surrounded by Franklin Street, Calhoun Avenue, Hillsborough, and Hernando. And that piece of property was bought for $1,018,500. Which basically all these together averaged out to $713,000. So that being said, that's where we got our price basis from. My personal question is, where did you get your price basis from? Anyway, also kicked around, or y'all have, I guess, kicked around certain things, but again, you can find the deed that was issued to Lakeshore Hospital Corporation, which is book 28, page 217 is the one I'm looking at, which again, it basically says y'all are allowed to have and to hold And it's subject to the following conditions. That the title, management and control of said hospital or other structures to be erected, this is before anything was here, erected on the property herein described shall be and remain in the Lakeshore Hospital Corporation, a nonprofit corporation, or its successors. As long as the property is used for the said hospital purposes, this resolution authorizing this deed of conveyance being adopted upon and with the express provisions that the Lakeshore Hospital Corporation through its trustees shall remain full and complete control of aforesaid proposed hospital. That's number one, there's three of them. Number two, that should the time come in the future when the property herein conveyed will no longer be able to serve the original hospital purpose or should be abandoned, property shall refer to its former owner, Lake City Lodge number 27, of Fred Mason. Or if we get disbanded, it was to go to the Grand Lodge, which is in Jackson. The third thing, which it can be done, is that said proposed hospital be closed and not operated. And at said time, it would be advantageous to the Lake Shore Hospital Corporation to sell the same. The said corporation is empowered and authorized to dispose of said land by sale, and the value of said land along exclusive and improvements and additions upon such sale being then made shall be paid over to Lake City Lodge number 27, Creek Nation. Which that being said, that's the main thing I want to clarify with everyone. And so when I came here in September last year, we were trying to help you out, basically. Trying to not be the thorn in the side, and what I said then, we would entertain a reasonable offer. It was also said, well, we slapped y'all in the face by our price, but it seemed like it's the other way around. That's about what I had to say.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson.
So that's where we're at right now. It's give us our deed. Or either our price is filing fast. Yeah. Because in the meeting, one of the meetings we did have with Mr. Kenny and also Mr. Williams, it was said to Mr. Williams that we'd really like to have 800,000, but we'd settle for 5. Did I not say that? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay.
Just to bring the trustees up to date, that's 10 to 5, 5 to 5, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
We got the appraisal. It is sort of broken down into 2 parts, and I'm not saying this to put words in Mr. Moses's mouth. I did not have time from trying to make copies to get over here for the meeting, so my review is extremely cursory. But as I understand it, and again, this would have to be confirmed with Mr. Moses, is essentially there are 2 values indicated in the appraisal. First on page 2, which is for $250,000, and I believe if you review the appraisal, which I'm going, have not reviewed it past page 12. That is the value of the parking lot that would include the improvements that Lakeshore made on the parking lot.
Okay.
So in other words, we paid to have the asphalt, the car stops, the fencing, et cetera, et cetera. And he valued it under, I think, 2 different methods, square footage and then so much per parking spot. But again, I do not have that analysis with me because of timing. And then I would need to confirm with him. And I had a little discussion with him prior to him engaging the project, and that was to also provide what is the value of the dirt without the improvements. In other words, if it was just a solid vacant lot, no asphalt, no fencing, no car stops, etc. I believe that value upon, and have to be confirmed with Mr. Moses on page 12, is $88,000.
Okay.
So there's two numbers there, 88,000 for the piece of dirt, just plain vacant. And then if you add in the improvements Lake Shore has made over the years, you get to the $250,000 value. But I'm gonna need time to confirm with Mr. Moses that that analysis is correct.
So it sounds like Chase put a clarification in there based on the assignment that, yeah, just the dirt on.
Do we have a copy of the reverter, Mr. Tompkins was reading?
I don't have it in front of me. I didn't bring it, but I can provide, the trustees with a copy of that and highlight those sections that Richard went over.
I was just confused on what that number 3 was. I couldn't follow it. And also just for the record, I want to make it clear that whenever my motion was to offer $25,000, that was me. And the intent wasn't to insult anybody, but to get some sort of dialogue going because we were asking and then we weren't getting any kind of idea of what was wanted. So that was the intent of my motion, for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Field.
So without any action being taken, if the board directs me, I'll get a clarification from Mr. Moses that there are two breakdowns, two different values and how those are based. And then I'll get the trustees a copy of that reverter with the highlighted sections and some explanation on those before the March 11th meeting.
So can you take public comments before we discuss? this
Have
further,
we,
Chair?
I thought we were exhausting, but let's only briefly.
I thought you was entitled to 3 minutes per meeting.
He can go first. As stated before, per Florida law, an authority, any government entity cannot pay more than the fair market value. So, at the most, it'd be $250,000. Or they can get it back, and if it's a question of Meridian having parking, we've got another parking lot. And, 88,000 sounds, reasonable, but then 250,000 sounds reasonable. But Meridian's not going to pay anything. We just have to provide them with parking. So maybe this just needs to be further addressed by the attorney, what Chase came up with, and for the authority to check to see if parking can be done within the fenced area right over there. Be no further than if you're at North Florida Regional Medical Center and you walk from the ER department to the parking garage. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sumner. Okay, I think we've exhausted public comments. Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Kennedy.
I just would like, I assuming, Mr. Kenny, correct me if I'm wrong, you're asking that we consider tabling this item until the March 11th meeting?
Yeah, at least then. I mean,
Okay.
I don't see it up for a final determination.
I got
I mean, I think the discussion, as I understand it, is we're now trying to resolve the Mason issue.
Yes, sir.
Really before we can move on to finalize the Meridian issue, because I think they've made it plain that they need that parking lot to be able to function. If they can't get it, then
But you're asking us to defer until the March 11th meeting, the issue regarding the Masons.
correct. I think it'd behoove the trustees to have confirmation that there are two different values and exactly what they are, number one, and number two, to be clear on the, reverter clause, like Mr. Beal indicated, that can all be done by March 11th.
Which is just 2 weeks out, and I assume that within the next 2 weeks, this fair market value will not increase $250,000.
I think that's gonna be your value.
That's what I mean, will be in 2 weeks from now.
Oh, yeah.
I know when Mr. Tompkins came back in September, I went back and listened to the tape where he spoke to us, and he is correct. He had mentioned that there was to help remove a thorn in our side, that they would entertain fair market value. It was on the
Reasonable offer.
fair mar-
Quote what I said,
It's a reasonable offer.
which is.
Yeah, but what you stated, not gonna argue, just the tape is on there where it states fair market value, and I agree that Mr. Beal, at the last meeting, we did talk about, originally I was insulted first, to the 500,000, but then after looking at it and looking at our offer, it was kind of insulting to the Masons also. And, but I think it's something that we can resolve at hopefully the March 11th meeting. And go forward.
Yes, I mean, we know now from a licensed appraiser who does
Yes, sir.
tons of government projects that depending on what value you use, it's either $250,000, or if you exclude improvements,
Right.
it would be $88,000.
Yes, sir.
So that's our appraised range at this point.
Okay.
Ms. Chance.
I suggest that we ask Mr. Tompkins when their next meeting is. Because if they're not gonna come down on price, we don't need to follow this anymore.
It's not a bad idea.
That's very valid.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, please, no, please, Mr. Thompson, please. And just,
I'll give you a little, what has transpired.
yes, sir.
We meet every first and third Thursday of the month. So I'm not, the first and third Thursday. Now, let's say we come to somewhat of agreement on something. What we have to do then is read it into our minutes, send out a summons to all members. Actually, we have summons to come to lodge and explain everything that's going on, and then we put it to a vote. And then we can come back to you and tell you our final deal. But as of right now, I gave you two things, which basically something's only worth what somebody's willing to pay for it. I understand that. But again, we put a price on it. That's the price we want for it. Or number two is the main thing we want is just get it back to us. Because the hospital's been closed for over 3 years. And basically, as the deed basically says, just assumes it is not. Which y'all understand the verbiage clause because you just executed one, I assume, or understand from the city. Okay, y'all are fast about doing y'all, but you're dragging your feet about what to do to us, which is just get back to us. Thank you. Any other questions?
No, I want to see the reverter clause. That number 3 is what I can't wrap my head around, so.
I'll get that to you. So if we want to wait till March 11th, I'd request I think it'd be more appropriate to do a motion to table. And I'll complete the 2 tasks I want to.
Okay.
I'll second that.
I think we got.
I can't make.
He can't make the motion. I'm making sure. Sorry.
I'll make a motion to table.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second to table this item until the March 11th meeting. Do you have a comment, Ms. Chancey? I feel like you have a comment.
Well, but based on what Richard told us, he won't have an answer by then, but yeah,
Well, I mean, they,
Well, we
But
would
I
have an
agree.
answer. We could make a,
but I agree to table.
in fairness to them, they now would have the opportunity to review
to review
an
the,
appraisal
Yeah.
that
Right,
would,
At a
at
meeting.
least the opinion of this appraisal, what the fair
Yeah.
market value is, irrespective of any other lots bought or sold, because every lot's distinctive as to location, timing of purchase, et cetera. And that's why we went out and got this one. So I think they at least need to have the courtesy of being able to look at it.
and they wouldn't have an answer for us until the 8th of April.
Yeah.
Just so we all understand that.
yes, yes. So there's a motion and a second on the floor to table this item until the next meeting. Let's do a roll call. Ms. Chancey?
Yes,
Yes, Kennedy.
Yes.
Yes.
Motion passes. So I don't know that we can do anything other than that. Mr. Kennedy, you know, you're bringing your stuff to us.
I'll have it.
Is there any further discussion in the board on that item that we need to?
You've already resolved it, so.
Okay, just making sure.
okay, now I'd like to ask a minute question.
Yes, ma'am. I knew there was something. I can feel it.
That'd be under board member comments.
Yes.
Yeah. I would like to know what is the maximum we can pay for something?
I thought it was fair market value.
Generally, it's fair market value.
Okay. I thought I understood that, but I like the clarification. Thank you.
Any other comments, Ms. Chance?
No.
You have any closing comments, Mr. Kennedy?
Absolutely not.
I know that I'm fine. Brother Beal.
Good.
Okay. Sorry, I lost my agenda. We're gonna go to the adjournment of this meeting. See y'all tomorrow. Thank you.